everybody, and welcome to the Upzone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts. I am Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council representative for the 3rd District in the city of North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina. I am thrilled to be with you all this morning, even though I'm joining from a different location. And if you see me muting and talking, it is because I am trying to handle two bits of business at the same time. And my co host has been updated on that. He knows his co host has her hands full this morning and he's prepared to steer the ship. Mr. Floyd, how goes all today?
T, so far, so far. But next week, it's going to be even better. It's going to be Christmas. And my creditors have told me they're not going to call me Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Okay, well, enjoy your break. These
Oh, what
children get out of school on Friday, and so even though the creditors might not be calling, your neighborhood will surely be jumping with the sound of young people who do not have to go to school for 2 weeks.
boy. I remember when I was younger, that's what I looked forward for the
Yeah.
Christmas break. But
Oh,
now,
for sure.
but now I'm looking forward to my creditors not calling me.
Listen, now we hope we get a Christmas bonus in the mail from somebody.
Keep wishing, G. Keep wishing.
I asked my husband last night. I said, "Do because I work for Larry." I said, "Do I get a bonus this year for Christmas?"
Do you get a bonus?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question
Imp-
before we move into the program. Uh, did, is there anything on the side of your wall that has some numbers on it?
Mr. Floyd, that is separate and apart. For all of that
No, but
is
just ask
separate.
the question though. Do you have anything on the side of the wall with some numbers on it?
No.
So you don't have a thermostat in your house.
Oh yeah, I have that.
Okay, then that's good enough. Then that's the bonus.
No, that's the bonus for my from my husband, but I'm talking about from my boss. These are two different people. Just because they wear the same skin does not make them the same person.
Well, they are considered the same.
Okay, we'll go with that. Mr. Floyd, what announcements you have for
So
our
teach,
people
let's look
today?
at it. Really, we have 71st High School with a 15-0 record. Is going to play this Saturday in Raleigh for the state championship, your 3A division. And the
Okay.
McAllister Fund today at 10 o'clock at the Presbyterian Church on Ann Street. That is where a black male and a white male, you know, gotten together over a period of time and established a relationship. That each year they give the black community members, and this year it's going to be 160 $25. And so, if $25 may not seem a lot to
Wait,
many,
Mr. Floyd, you said this is where at one point a black man and a white man got together to establish a relationship, and now the church is going to give 160 black people $25?
no,
Is
from the
that
McAllister Fund. It is named the
okay?
McAllister Fund, and
Hmm.
that's where the fund is going to be given out at the Presbyterian Church on Ann Street.
Is
To the
the only requirement that you have to be black to get the $25?
That's how it's set up. I'm just saying, Tisha. I mean, you know, that's how it is set up, and it's a good program. You know, and also
Go get your $25, Mr.
now
Floyd.
they already selected the 160
Get look, get mine too.
people. They already have selected the
I can
100.
appreciate that. I'm sure that there's other criteria. I'm sure it's not just be black.
And then keep in mind, if you have time, our incoming governor is going to be sworn in on January the 11th at 10 a.m.
Congratulations to Josh Stein on his election.
Time. And remember now, there are tickets to be sold, and I think the Junior JC in Raleigh is handling that. Now the General Assembly is going to reconvene on I think it's Wednesday, no, Wednesday the 8th at I think it's 12 noon that they are going to reconvene there. And then the Democrat Party teach if you also
When are they sworn in? Have they been sworn in
no, that's when they be sworn in. I mean,
at their reconvening?
yeah, a lot of members have what we call ceremonial sworn in, in their district. But the official sworn in is on this particular date, which is Wednesday the 8th, because you have to sign the documents.
Your oath of office. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's when it's going to take place. And then the Democrat Party is going to have a We Rise rally, and that will be on January the 5th at 1 o'clock at the Halifax Mall. So if
Okay.
you have time to attend those affairs, adjust your schedule to be a part of these great celebrations there. Those are the
Okay.
announcements that I, and one other thing, too, we have the Brunson family whose son just received his fourth star, and he is from the great state of Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Congratulations. That's impressive.
Four
That's
star,
impressive.
four
Yeah.
star.
We
And
are we are a military community, and I don't know why people want to fight that. It's such an honor for us to be a military community. I think we should embrace it and we should capitalize on it. Congratulations to Four-Star General Brunson. And also congratulations to 71st for such an impressive winning streak. That's all right. I'm glad to hear about that.
and we forgot last week because we had a good discussion to congratulate those members who new members who was appointed to the Cumberland County Board of Education, and they are meeting now to grapple with the fact of their revenue that they are looking for in the incoming, fiscal year, which they
Mm-hmm.
did report that their budget, I think, is 602 million, and they have in their reserve fund 20 million. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll be a good conversation about how those funds are going to be generated this year. Will they receive the same amount from the state and the county, and what adjustment they have to make?
Mm-hmm. You know what else is really great?
What does that teach?
The fact that this new board gets to seat a new superintendent.
Yes, and that would be, the appointment sometimes gets a little bit fuzzy there. We had that incident to occur in Greensboro that someone said they had a problem with. We had it just the incident in Durham, North Carolina, wherein that they didn't object to the hiring of the Durham city manager, but they just wanted to be a little bit more information provided, for making these, tough decisions. It's just like now, we announced last week that we have what the chief of police,
Mm-hmm.
school superintendent that's going to depart that you just mentioned, and these are some very tough decisions, given the times that we're in.
So you're speaking specifically about the appointment process.
Yes, yeah,
Okay. And do you think that's because it's such a partisan world that we live in, or nation that we live in, that there are all of these political factors at play versus who's really the best person for the job?
it's politics, as you know that as usual. There was an incident, I think, up in Winston-Salem that there was some concerns about one council member had a relationship with the city manager, so therefore he had some greater experience, right? Had a greater relationship with the manager than the other council members had.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really politics, and it's really a lot of behind the scene type thing when we look at it. Why all of a sudden, with 2 years as chief of police, you step down? Why all of a sudden you have 6 years with the county board of education, with your contract being extended for 2 years to 2028? So when you look at all of these things, teach that there's a lot of hidden reason and a lot of frustration that the public don't see, and a lot of it is in our community. A lot of it is manipulation.
So, one of the things that you said you wanted to talk about was some of that manipulation, particularly within the Democrat Party. So, let's unpack the challenges, some of the challenges that we're seeing play out in the Democrat Party, and specifically speaking to the article that we reviewed with the representative who is he in High Point? Is that representative?
Burleson area. Yeah, that Burleson High Point.
So let's talk a little bit about what we see happening with that.
Well, did you have the article, Tish?
I'm gonna pull it up for you.
Well, just as you pull it up, Brandon is a member of the North Carolina House of Representatives from the Burleson Guilford County, area, and as you know, he has some medical issues because he is the first open gay black legislator in Raleigh, and he has received some challenges from members of the Democrat Party, and it's the same individuals uh, that always want to keep certain members in line,
Mm-hmm.
and they
So this is the second time we've seen him pop up in an article, Mr. Floyd. We saw him
say it again.
being we saw him pop up before.
Yes, you're breaking up. That's right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We saw him pop up before when he was talking about being mistreated by his party.
Well, if you can recall, Tish, you were right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
It is that he has some medical issues, and so the vote they was upset with him because he did not come to Raleigh to participate in the veto override. But he and also another representative was not able to attend because of medical reasons. But
Mm-hmm.
the party didn't jump on the other representative; they jumped on Brandon.
And I think it was interesting that he said, he was sick during the vote and prioritized his health, which is similar to what you heard from the other representative. I also think that his response to being questioned about switching parties was very interesting because he was asked on Monday if he planned to stay in the party, and he told the News and Observer that he's been a Democrat and he instead of fighting other Democrats, he'd rather see his party focus on doing things to win back the majority. But then he also did not rule it out. He said, I would just say that this is the exact same behavior that pushed Trisha Cotham, who we saw last year in Charlotte, change parties from Democrat to Republican,
Well,
out of our party. Everyone has their limits. So, Mr. Floyd, I think he sort of left that door open.
well, it's the same thing, T, that happened to four other Democrats. It happened here in Cumberland County with Kurt DeVille and myself. You know, it's how the Democrats want you to march a line. But when you look at the overall picture of my party, and if you look at the last election of how two African American candidates did not receive any funding from the PAC, but yet still they give you very little contribution, but they want you to follow their liberal agenda, and that's the problem that is being faced. And sometimes, you can't push a person but so far before he or she will make decisions that are uncomfortable for you. But this is the party, and it does not. When you look at it, and if the African American community look at the last election and looking at Brandon, we had two persons that didn't receive any money from a PAC that they were supposed to receive money. Why don't we talk about these things than to beat up on members because he or she is not following your ideology? When I was a
Right.
representative, I based my decision, Chief, on three things. One was my constituents. Two was my conscience, and three was my caucus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember anyone as example, Price and Harrison, out of Guilford County voted for me. Uh,
Right.
I'm in Cumberland County, and so my loyalty is to my constituents. And you talk about democracy and how democracy plays, but yet still you want to control the individual. And we talk
Well,
about
and I am.
what
Go ahead.
when you talking
Go
about
ahead.
democracy, but yet still you want to control. And the same group did the same thing to Brandon that they doing to the minority leader, which is Robert Reed. Robert Reed is a leader, but they want him to hire the staff that they want to be his staff. So, we talk about this, but as we mentioned, a lot of behind the scenes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you not Brandon because he's an African American legislator, and the African American caucus and the African American community is not going to say anything. So, let me continue to beat on you because you don't have any support as it relates to the Black caucus or the Black community. So you're just free to be beat upon. So that's what they do until the Black caucus and the Black community start saying enough is enough. We want
Mm-hmm.
equal treatment across the board,
Mm-hmm.
and and you know that's what needs to take place. The Black legislators and the Black community need to start standing up for what they call democracy. But they talk about democracy in one ear, and behind the scene, you ought to see it, Tisha. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It is unbelievable about how they treat minority legislators. As an example, like in Brandon case and the other case, they said, "Well, you're not helping fund Brandon." So, but on the other hand, they say, "Well, there's no need in me funding him and other minority candidates because if I finance this particular person who is a white candidate, the minority candidate is going to march in line with that white candidate. So I only
Mm-hmm.
need one, and the Black candidates and the Black representative is going to march behind them because they will go back in the African American community and say that you are not a Democrat."
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, Tish? We believe them.
Well, Mr. Floyd, what do you think is at the root of that issue?
The root of that issue, well, Tish, is like uh, when the governor came here and said, uh, "This is the person that I want to represent me." Okay, over a person who was already sitting. And now, if I can carry you back to when I was in human relations, we call what a reasonable-minded person would assume is sexual harassment. So a reasonable-minded person say, "Well, if I went in your community and told you what I want, and you had no objection, let me come back."
So I will say that I think at the root of that issue is the fact that we the people, and I'm gonna say used to, because I think, and I continue to hold this perspective. We the people used to be fed a narrative that lulled us to sleep and rocked us into complacency. And I think that what we saw in this most recent national election, and maybe it is the people who came out to vote because they were pushing back against this narrative, and we don't see those same people voting in municipal elections. So maybe that's why we keep seeing the same problems in municipal elections. But the people who came out to vote nationally rejected the notion that we're going to walk and think like a monolith just because we are of a darker skin hue. It is a false ideology that the complexion of our skin makes our experience synonymous with one another. It is a false narrative that the complexion of our skin, no matter which complexion, that the complexion of our skin gives us the same perspective regarding social issues, economic issues, safety concerns, educational issues. These things are determined by many other factors than just the hue or the complexion of our skin tone. But heretofore, the political system has been able to hinge all of its effect on playing on this idea that the hue of our skin tone predicates the perception that we have regarding these different issues. And that's just a fallacy. And I think that a lot of people across the nation demonstrated that they're waking up to the fact that that is a lie. I think that, again, like I said, I think locally, and Mr. Floyd, I'll say this, I think both locally and sometimes in terms of um, generationally, there's still this stronghold that the party politics has on people, and not just regarding our hue, but multiple hues. And I think that that may be something that just has to age out. But I believe, Mr. Floyd, wholeheartedly that your party needs to wake up, and these tactics that they're using, these bullying and these manipulative tactics that they're using, they're outdated, they're overplayed, and their time is up. And I
What you
think that they really need to consider some other alternatives if they wish to restore the balance of power in their direction.
well, blacks now are beginning to see that they are elected from a district, just like with Brandon. Brandon saw that the only way that he was going to improve the quality of life in his district, just like you just mentioned, was to step across the aisle. And he was able to bring in $29 million to a community that the Democrat Party, if they have to just really give it to his district, would not receive it. Willingham, the same way, with $58 million for the Edgecombe County side. They looked at this as my district needs support, and Cunningham up in Charlotte area, where you have a large minority population, and then Michael Ray down in the Halifax County, which is the poor part of the state, got $138 million somewhere in that area for educational programs and projects for his district. We got to start looking at that, Teach, because if we look at our HBC, we see very little under the Democrat control, very little capital projects that was given to the HBCU, and we was in charge for 144 years, and we saw a very little growth. Now, I'm a Democrat, Teach. I'm like Brandon. I'm gonna remain a Democrat, but I got to start asking my party. Let's start standing up. Let's start demanding. Power concedes to no one unless a demand is placed on it. And this is what our African American community has not done, because it really bothered me when I read the article about Brandon. And I go back, Tisha, you hear me talk about it all the time, wherein that two candidates didn't receive any money. And if perhaps Holmes, that she had gotten some money, we would not have the auditor that's a Republican appointing the state board of election, because
So
we
let
are.
me ask you this question. You said that you would like to see your party make some demands. You were talking about what you think that the Black Caucus should discuss. Share that with our audience, and then tell them how, if they agree with you, they can reach out to their elected officials to make their voices heard.
Well, with Tish, one thing is that, let's say that the Black Caucus itself need to have a meeting with the incoming governor, and also with Morgan Jackson, the one that does most of the financing, and say, if there's money, equitable distribution of that money need to be in place.
Mm-hmm.
Equitable distribution. But I don't see if that's happening, Teach, because when I look at the incoming governor cabinet appointment, they are just hanging, well, person that served under the Cooper administration. And if that's the case, there's going to be very little change in the direction of the state and as it relates to the minority community. We were able to
Okay.
get, I believe, two of the 13 cabinet level appointments that he's made so far.
Okay. So how do people make their voices heard to to the powers that be to say this is what we want?
We need you know, they need to go after January the what is the 8th, is that the legislators contact information will be posted on the state website. They need to go to
ncleg.gov. ncleg.gov.
and then it lists the membership list. They need to contact those African American legislators and say to them, get up. We elected you to serve us. You come from a minority district. What we want from you in this section 25 and 26 session is that we want to see a minority agenda uh, that you are going to develop and that you are going to push this to enhance the minority communities throughout the state. That's what they need to do. As an example, one of the areas that need to be looked at, if you are in a minority family, if you have four children, one out of those persons would have the sickle cell disease or they will have the traits. We need to get more money to study sickle cell. And, and how can we help those families? Although it has improved from 50, let's say 40 years ago, because back then your life expectancy was 30 years for a sickle cell patient. Today, with medicine and technology, you know that has improved. And we
Hmm.
need to say we have minority schools. You know, many of them are failing schools. We need to get more resources. Our HBCU colleges need to get more funding, and that's for capital projects. So in that our community can grow. We need to get more access to body cams, in which people have talked about that from time to time. Is that they can't get access to body cam information, and it's a little better now. You can get a court order in order to get the body cam information, but we need to look at how can we get that access a little bit quicker. And then we need to talk about how can we raise the minimum wage from 7.25 to a number that's comfortable, you know. And if we can look at that, teach, we can look at the problem that the city of Durham school system had. They can't get bus drivers, and that is because you look at the wages. I mean, and the responsibility that goes along with that. We need to have our African American caucus is to come up with an African American agenda that they are willing to step across the aisle and negotiate that agenda to enhance the African American community. We elect them, but the problem is, Tish, I thank you for asking me, but I don't see that's happening because, they are going to tell the other part of the community that they are not loyal Democrats. They are demanding too much.
So, again, just for the purposes of our audience, because we do seek to make sure that you understand how you can be engaged. If you want to reach out to your representatives and ask them to support an agenda, and you have items that you would like to be placed on that agenda, you can reach out to them by looking on their website, North Carolina Legislator, ncleg.gov, NC, North Carolina, LEG, Lima Echo Golf, LEG dot gov, GOV, Golf October Victor. Once you do that, you that becomes a matter of public record. You've gone on the record and you've stated what you desire to see from your elected body. Listen, we voted for these people. Some of the people that are going up there, you voted for them. You may not have voted for some of them, but they're going up there, and their responsibility is to reflect the will of the people. I spoke directly to Mr. Colvin, and he indicated that's what he intends to do, is to reflect the will of the people. In order to know the will of the people have to communicate with you and you have to listen to them. So if you want to speak to your legislators and tell them how you would like to see things handled, you got to speak up. And if you see that they are not doing what you've asked them to do, you have to move accordingly with your vote. You cannot just continue to accept the narratives that you read in the paper or the things that you hear discussed on podcasts, even our podcast, to become your substantiated truth. You have to do your own work. You have to use your own voice because there's strength in numbers and there's solidarity in the fact that people speak up and speak out together. I agree that the things that you've listed are important, Mr. Floyd, but I would say that they don't just have to be a Black agenda. I think that those are important to our community overall because the disorder of sickle cell affects Black people directly, but it affects the entire community indirectly. Because if you have an employee that works for you and they have sickle cell, your workforce is impacted when they can't come to work because their body is revolting against itself because of this disorder. If you have an educational system and you're counting on being able to educate these students so that you can test adequately as they matriculate through, you're adversely affected when these students are missing a week at a time because they're hospitalized. So this is and that's why I think that things should not always necessarily be considered just a Black agenda, because yes, Black people deal with it in their bodies, but the entire community deals with the effects of the things that we're discussing. Failing schools affect our entire community. They don't just affect the students that attend those failing schools, because when these children are not educated, they are turned out into our community as citizens who have not received the proper instruction to be contributing members of society. So, yes, we do want our legislators who directly represent these areas that are affected to speak up and be concerted, but we want this to be everybody's issue. So don't just email your representative if your skin is the hue as of mine and your representative's skin is the hue of mine. Email all of these people and let them know that these are things that affect our entire state, our entire nation, and we would like to be a leader in addressing some of these concerns.
You're right, Tish, and it's just like Senate Bill, I think Senate Bill 382. Uh, One representative from the Brandon area said that she got hundreds of text messages
Mhm.
asking her to support the override. I would love to see those hundred, you know, but she said she got 100. But unless you do that, you know, to let the legislator know, then they would just, assume it's just business as usual. I'll go up there like my friend Archie McMillan, who's deceased now, said, I'll just go up here to fit in the city.
And you said something to me yesterday when we were doing show prep that I'm going to make sure I close with today because I thought it was so good. But Mr. Floyd, what else do you have for us before we prepare for our closing?
Well, Tish, you know, uh, I just wish that going into the new legislative year 2025 and 26, that we begin to hold our elected officials accountable.
Absolutely.
And that means accountable, don't take my vote for granted. Just don't take my vote for granted. My vote
Absolutely.
come with some uh, choices. Uh,
And
uh,
if the party didn't know that before November the 4th, they absolutely ought to know that now.
and they should, I mean, because you know, just as an example, Don Davis, and we talked about this on our program in District 1, uh, when the candidate for the Democrat Party came to North Carolina, she went to the same location and did not go to the northeastern part of the state. And that was
Mhm.
because of Don Davis, ability to work across the aisle. We need to push that aside, Tisha. We need to push that aside. And if there are competitive districts, we often invest the resources in competitive races and not start looking at an individual because I like them. And
Mm-hmm.
what we need to do, and I hope that this incoming governor will stay out of local primaries and let the people decide. You tear the party up when you start involving yourself into local politics as it relates to Brandon case there. So I hope that as we go forward as a party, like you just mentioned, Chief, that we look at messages. You know, we
Absolutely.
it's the same. It's the same teach. I mean, we talk about charter school. We talking about the corporate tax. I mean, the Republican Party, even if you veto all of the bills, and you veto the budget, you still operate off the previous year's budget, which is usually a $1 billion increase every year. So you just give the Republican Party more in their rainy day fund. So just think about that. We boast about health care. I mean, we could have got health care in 2020. So we need to open up our eyes and our and and look at the mindset. Are we better or are we worse?
Right.
Are we better or are we worse? Just don't uh, 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 send people, whoever, the city council person, county board of commissioner, state representative, U.S. House members, you know, demand something of your vote. Now,
Absolutely. What would you like to leave our people with today, Mr. Floyd?
I wish that the Cumberland County would develop them a pact.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When can the people tune in and hear you on WIDU?
Well, hopefully tomorrow at 7:30 or from 9 o'clock, they can hear this lovely voice expressing the same kind of conversation to the public that we as Democrats need to change. I believe
Absolutely.
if we're to get
And
it.
one of the Absolutely. And what you said to me yesterday during show prep that stood out to me was you said that Archie McMillan, lovingly known as Doodoo, used to say, "You're not free, you're just loose.
You just lose. He
You're
would say
just
that.
loose."
He would say that in discussion that we have at the shoe shop. That was one
Hmm.
of the things. But he would use another word too with that.
Yeah.
You ain't free. You just
You
loose.
just lose. And I want to say this because instantly I got a visual when you said that to me. And this morning I'm just reminded of the word because y'all know I like to give y'all as much Jesus as I can, but I'm reminded of the word that says, "He who the Son sets free is free indeed." And so all of us who are trying to find our freedom in political structure or in judicial structure or educational structure or getting married structure, whatever the structure is that we're trying to find our freedom. I just want to remind you that in all of those things, you're not free, you're just loose. You're not free until you find your freedom in Jesus Christ, because he who the Son sets free is free indeed. That was so good when you said that to me, Mr. Floyd. I saw a dog on a chain and I saw the chain being real short, and that was the bondage, right? But then I saw somebody loosening that chain up to give the dog more room to run around the yard, but you still can't get away because you're just loose. You're not free. So that's what I'd like to leave our people with. And I really appreciate you all rocking with us today. It's always a pleasure that you would take the time to hear our perspective and engage with the way that we want to help people to understand politics. Mr. Blood, I thank you for taking the time each week to educate even me. I appreciate that. I learn something new every week. And I encourage you, like Mr. Floyd said, speak up and have a plan. Get a plan and speak up. Otherwise, all you're doing is just being in a cycle that just continues. It's rinse, spin, and repeat, rinse, spin, and repeat. And we will be here next week because next week is the 26th. So it's the day after Christmas. So we will be on board for next week. Mr. Floyd, you want to tell the people Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas to you, and uh, just well, Tisha, if I may, before we close,
Yeah, go ahead.
the this month right here is one of the biggest months that help the state Department of Revenue and help with the general funds of the state of North Carolina, the month of December. So spend, spend, spend so that you can help the state so that you don't get any increase in fees. And then the other frustration comes, Tish, April the 15th. Those are the two generating revenue sources that help our state carry out its mission of providing services to this great state. So spend, spend, spend. And the other thing, Teach, before we leave, the Federal Reserve lower the interest rate. So your credit card won't be as high when you spend all your money.
Anyway, like, share, subscribe, and follow. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And we will catch you on the next episode. Oh, is it gonna play the outro for us? Let's see.
Okay, Teach.
All
Thank
right, sir.
you.
All set. Thank you so much for accommodating me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.